morning, good evening, everyone. This is Luda Kopikina with GAI Insights. Welcome to Daily AI News, where we rate articles essential, important, or optional. You can follow along at gaiinsights.com/articles. And please let us know what you think in comments as we proceed. Today, I have Adam, Ankaj, John, and Paul, our regular crew, and Nina Arugio is joining us. She is a AI adoption lead in Eris, and we really appreciate you joining, Nina.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So let's proceed to the first article. Ankash.
Thanks, Luda. So the first one that we have for today comes from Google, and it's about their Gemini 3 deep think model, where they are advancing science, research, and engineering.
Yeah, a push from Google. What did you think, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, this is impressive. I actually rate it as important, and I can say a little probably why not optional, but also not why essential. So Gemini, Google already had this Gemini 3 deep think model, and they have continued to improve it, and that's really the announcement here. Some of the benchmarks are pretty extraordinary. There's the ARC-AGI, which is a general intelligence exam on reasoning and knowledge, and Claude Opus 4.6 was by far the standout at almost 70%, and this was, I don't know if you can quite see, it might have been the chart above that actually, but it's at almost 85%. Which is just an extraordinary result. I didn't see much here in terms of the cost per compute, but obviously that's not the end of the spectrum they're really competing on here. It's in terms of just the absolute reasoning and intelligence, and they have, as I believe Ankash just mentioned, really focused in on mathematics and programming. So it's getting tremendous results, but in some ways you could say, look, the challenge is no longer having good enough models. It's about what we're doing with them. So in some ways, as incredible as this is, I don't think it's going to be quite as impactful as it could be if there were actual advances. In some ways, it's incremental improvements. It's big improvements, but it's big news, but not essential. I think if people are already working with Gemini deep reasoning, they're going to continue to get better results. Some people might want to pay attention to it, start considering how they could use it. But yeah, so an important overall.
Okay, important from Adam, and it's not open broadly. It's really they're opening it to a cluster of folks, and you need to sign up. Who are paying, and you need to sign up to try it. So it's coming up hopefully soon. They don't tell us about when. Okay, so important from Adam. What do you think, Nina?
I also rated it as important. I was specifically impressed by the anti-gravity additions and improvements, but my so what was more like if you're still treating LLMs as simple chatbots, I think people are falling behind, especially the business leaders. They need to really just catch up with sort of like where we are today. I think the play now is really very much vibe coding among developers or whatnot, but and especially the agentic collaboration, which I thought it was like a thread for today. So yeah, just moving from writing prompts to managing AI workers, that build and orchestrate on their own.
But okay, so important it is. Okay, Akash, anything to add? We're going important here.
No, important for me as well, Luda. I think I agree with Adam's comments. It's a great model, but regular users, what they are going to do with it, nobody knows. So for that reason, important.
Okay. John, important?
Yep.
Okay. Paul, okay?
Yeah, I just like the least one. For those knowledge workers in your company, they're highly research intensive, i.e. equity research at Wall Street firms. You need to have a strategy, I believe, of using multiple research models. These stuff keep getting better, and these guys are doing such powerful work. Those researchers need to be. Sometimes they use Gemini deep research. Sometimes they use Perplexity. Sometimes, and getting a sense for what type of work here, because this is just going to continue to get better. And you need to equip your researchers with the best tools and not think, hey, Ankash, they have Copilot that does deep research. That's competitively enough. I'm at benchmark. It's not sufficient. So you need to equip the best tools. I think it's a little different in coding. I don't think that you want all your coders with different tools, but certainly your researchers, because there's a small number and a high impact.
Yeah, I mean, there's a profound thing that happened in February, in my opinion, which is that the robots now can do significantly sophisticated planning and be autonomous for long periods of time. And that's not just research, Paul. I think that's everything. And so, before we didn't, the humans did the planning and the robots did the work, if you will, or it was a one-shot plan. But now the fact that they can go meta and plan and call tools and then continue to evolve against the function, like one of the guys with he asked the robot to go create a reservation, and it was using OpenTable, and the particular restaurant was not integrated for the web version of OpenTable for the web thing. So the robot went out, it got software, speech generation software, came back, called up the restaurant, and used the speech generation software to make the reservation. Okay, that's a very different kind of planning, and I think that's evident in this research thing.
Well, and John, I know we're going late. Since we do so much research, and I know we got one on Slack that's for an important customer here. Ankash, what I really want is I want to ask CoWork to create the query against all 5 of these tools that we pay for deep research, then summarize it and tell me which one it is. So we want the robots to actually do the comparison. And and John, I agree. I mean, I don't think there's any difference between researching for 12 hours or coding on 12 hours.
Absolutely. And actually, Paul, you said maybe not coding, actually coding as well. So I think what's happening is the orchestrators that sit on top and can switch and find the right model for the right cost and for the right task will be actually more prominent this year. And that's what we are saying, not necessarily each model specifically.
Yeah.
Okay, important it is. Yeah, John?
We'll pick up pace. I spent most of my adult life in consulting, and in consulting you go from can you do the work, can you plan the work and do the work, can you teach the work, plan the work and do the work, can you sell the work, plan the work, teach the work and do the work. That's kind of the hierarchy as you get more thing, and the robots are moving up that hierarchy. We haven't got to the sell part yet, but they can plan the work, they can do the work, and they can oversee the work. It's just amazing.
And John, you're talking about a career ladder for a human.
A career ladder for a human in knowledge-based businesses.
Yeah, totally. Okay, great discussion. Thank you, but we need to pick up pace. Okay, next one, Ankash, please.
Okay, the next one comes from OpenAI, and it is titled Harness Engineering, Leveraging Codex in an Agent-First World.
Yes, this is exactly what we're talking about and pushing it forward in actually letting agents do it for us, orchestrated by humans. Nina, what did you think about this one? And what this is actually too?
Yeah, so if I may summarize, it's OpenAI, they just dropped, I think it reads as a bombshell regarding the future of labor in software development in particular. They claim that they successfully built and shipped a product with 0 lines of manually written code. We're talking about 1 million lines of code. And instead of, they're basically just saying that the core shift here is from coding to harness engineering. So it's a shift, and instead of writing functions, the engineer's new job is now to build the harnesses. So I think my take-home message was, don't copy OpenAI's code, just copy their mindset. Just stop hiring for coding skills and start hiring for environment design skills. And I particularly, I have been going back and forth between Claude Code and also Codex, and I have been noticing that Codex has gotten really, really great at finding the bugs. Just a few months ago, they couldn't. They could fix the bugs, but they couldn't really find them. And they're really great at that. But when it comes to really orchestrating and just going a few steps deeper, I tend to just go to Claude Code for that. So I rated it as important. It reads a little bit as a product announcement as well. But I was really struggling between important and essential, but I stayed with important.
Okay,
for the
so
business leader.
Important to essential, more important. What did you think, Adam?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was probably going to end up important and keep it flagged for awareness, but it was actually the other way and was leaning a little more towards optional. I think I can see there's broad applicability of what's being said here. I think it's already been said by others. I think Andre Karpathy just last week, who was the one who even coined the term vibe coding less than a year ago, was talking about how vibe coding is dead and we're really onto agentic engineering, which is probably another way to characterize or to describe this. So I didn't see a lot of original thought here other than them tying their product to what seems to be the direction things are going. Definitely important to be aware of. But the reality is, unless your organization's at a place where you're putting platform guardrails in place, I just don't think most organizations are at the AI adoption maturity where this is really relevant enough to elevate to essential. It's one of those things they're going to want to tuck away, and they'll get to it. And it's important to understand where they're going. But yeah.
But Adam, I would disagree. If this is, I think it's essential. But let me defer to other people, but I really think that it would be very critical for people to know about it as they're setting up the orchestrators for coding, orchestrators for other things, right? So you need to know where the stuff is going. And this is a good example with the specific how they did it on one project. What did you think about this, John? You're on mute.
He's trying to get back to his mute.
I had this as important.
You had it as important.
Yeah.
Okay. Ankash?
I was important, Luda, on this one.
Not essential. Okay, Paul? Optional.
Big O from Paul.
Optional.
All right. Important it is. I was in minority. I really think this is where the stuff is going. But okay, important it is.
I agree it's where it's going, Luda, and that's why it's important to me. The fact is, though, OpenAI is jumping on the bandwagon that's already a conversation that's happening. They're not really a thought leader in this.
That's true. That is a good point. Okay, important it is. Let's proceed to the next one.
Okay, the next one comes from Bain & Company, and it is titled, "Want More Out of Your AI Investments? Think People First."
All right. A longish article from Bain. What did you think, John? And please tell us what it is about.
Yeah, for sure. This is an article that makes talks about basically investments you need to make in the talent as well as redesigning the workflow to get economic value from AI. In our RISE capability model, they're talking about going from islands of innovation into scaling, if you will, and they're talking about the different kinds of the different kinds of capabilities you need to build inside the organization to actually go get economic value. So if you go down to, for example, if you go way down to the very end of this, figure 4, it talks about the different drivers, core productivity drivers, and productivity enhancers, and that those physical capital, human capital, technological innovation, time management, and saying that, look, you need to get at those core drivers as you do anything on this. In addition, if you go back up to figure 3, you'll see that there's a correlation between employee engagement and workflow productivity. And these findings are not new findings for any kind of technology, if you will. There's always been a correlation between employee engagement and economic return. And I'm kind of on the fence of this. I don't like their framework because they come in and talk about going across the workflow and getting rid of workflow debt. I think that's a totally wrong. It's kind of a re-engineering mindset. And I don't think that's what we're talking about here. I think that for me, re-engineering was about taking an existing flow, redesigning it once, and then getting value. This is much more about teaching people where the control layers are, what the platform needs to be, and then the activities on top of the platform with people enabled with these new tools, and then how do you share those? So I think that their process approach and how they think about how you evolve from islands of innovation to scaling is wrong, but their general notion that you have to have a lot more investment in the talent and engagement to get the value is right. So I'm kind of two minds. I like their point. I don't like their framework. So given that I was, conflicted on that, I averaged it. I did the non-Solomon thing. I cut the baby, and it's important.
If I asked you to take sides, would you go optional or essential?
Essential if I had to take sides.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Nina, what did you think?
What can I say after this wonderful summary from John? The thing that kept resonating with me was exactly what you just described, John. The framework is a little, I think they could have articulated this a little better. You know, what kept running in my mind was, you know, if your colleague, meaning the AI, is joining a dysfunctional team, then the colleague will fail. But I didn't really quite read it as you need to just redo the entire thing and, you know, move from there. But that would have been sort of like a better way to describe their article. But yes, important as well.
Paul, what was your takeaway?
I think it's absolutely essential. I agree with John. There's some critiques, but the concept is essential. We're dealing with a couple companies. One's looking at a $1 to $3 million Gen AI investment. None of the ones at 10 to 15. That whole team and both the companies think this is a technology investment. We're going to prove the CapEx. We're going to give the technology to that people. Oh my God, let's have the thing here. And AI is reversing this whole thing. Both those companies, to get value out of a $10 million thing here, you got to think people first and then technology and all this process here. So I think this is a good thing to start getting people to understand how critical it is on these AI projects to get to the people and the people mix right, because this thing's evolving so quickly, and that interplay between enlightened employees who are AI aware and the robots is how you get value at it. It's just not technology. So I had it as essential.
Yeah, I had to, and to add to what you said, Paul, it's also in the market. When we talk about people first, people think upskilling. Let's get everybody these tools. And this is wrong, right? This is it's a necessary step, maybe, but it's about processes, about rethinking what they're doing, how to integrate AI into your thinking. Yeah, so it's a very, and this article actually points it out. So that's why I was on the other side. Adam.
Yeah, I was important. I think as I hear Paul there, I could definitely support essential. I might go there myself. I'm still with John. I'm not quite sure I like the framing. Interestingly enough, the things I found most valuable about this article were not about that you've got to take the humans into consideration in the process, which I'm sure, Paul, you're experiencing a lot of AI leaders don't think that way yet. And so it's a very important point, Stu, but that's not really the original thought in here from me. What really stood out to me was the concept of no longer funding use cases, but actually finding end-to-end workflows that you want to rebuild and just picking like 3 to 5 of them, redefining what better looks like, and then figuring out how you're going to build it. Right?
And also looking for the ones that have bottlenecks, right? That
yeah.
actually not
So that approach to finding the right solutions I thought was really valuable, and also the idea of considering workflow debt like tech debt, which was something that I thought was really, really useful original thought of this article.
Friction and old. Look for friction and old, and then focus there. Okay. Ankash, we're going essential. Okay with that?
Essential, Luda. Yes,
Okay.
Luda.
Okay, great. Thanks. Let's proceed. Need to pick up pace.
Yes. The next one comes from Minimax, and they have released Minimax M2.5, built for real-world productivity.
Yes, Ankash, you're tracking all these models. Tell us what this is and what you think.
Luda. So basically, Minimax M2.5, this is their new model. They have launched 2 versions of it. One is the main version, and there's a lightning version as well, which is the lighter version, and a cheaper version as well. So interesting thing, Luda, is here that if you look at the benchmarks here, they are almost at the same level in most of the benchmarks compared to Opus 4.5 or 4.6, and in some cases higher than Gemini, or in most cases. So I think they have done a really good job of training it through reinforcement learning. So they have built those RL environments, which are actually useful for tool use. So you're coding, you're conducting different kind of researches and all the different actions. So they have moved from chat-based to action-based kind of a concept. And we are seeing a lot of models, whether it's Opus 4.6 or GPT 5.2 or the one that we discussed yesterday, GLM5 from ZAI, everybody moving to this agentic mindset. So I think this is an important release as we are seeing the penetration of tools like OpenClaw. And Vivek was just mentioning yesterday that he uses Kimi K2.5 as his underlying model for OpenClaw. So we might not see a rapid adoption or immediate adoption of these models from an enterprise perspective, but definitely power users, they are picking these up, they are using them in their own set of tools. And I'm pretty sure in the next 6 months, we will see the migration to enterprises as well.
Yeah.
So I think something that an AI leader needs to keep an eye out for.
Okay. So important for you. Important for you. Okay. John, where were you on that?
Yeah, this on the Minimax.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had it as essential. The reason is just the massive cost reduction that's available. And I think that we're seeing a bifurcated market. So you get the leaders, really adopting and reinvesting. Those people are now starting to go on a different curve of cost. So not only do they have more improvement, but they're also engineering the costs out. And so I just think what's happening here. Look, when Andrew Carnegie ran U.S. Steel, he used to buy the newest blast furnaces, and he ran them what were called hot, fast and hot, and he burned through them in about 2 to 3 years. And the Brits who were competing against them, the British steel companies, husbanded their blast furnaces over about a 10 to 15-year period. What they didn't understand is in 2 to 3 years, Andrew Carnegie put more steel on a unit basis through those new blast furnaces than they did in 10. And so what happened was they not only had bad unit economics, but they had the worst technology. So every 2 to 3 years, Carnegie was on the next level of technology. He had paid for it by the volume he put through it, and he was continuing to drive the cost down. That's what's going on here, and Minimax is going to be a part of that. And Carnegie also would go after anybody that could make him money on steel. So he chased it Frick from another company. He was just a magnet for talent that would drive his unit cost down. And so I think this is part of that. This is if we're back in the steel age, this is like the Bessemer process. It's completely changing the unit economics of this stuff. So
it's interesting because, John, in addition to what you just said, they just raised 620 million by going public on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange in January.
Yeah.
So they have money to actually attract more and more talent. So, and they went public on a couple of messages, and that's translating the power of what they develop in the models into like B2C bots and stuff, and B2B. So it's very interesting.
The other thing, I was just listening to Scott Galloway talking to Ethan Mollick, in a recent interview post, and the thing is that Scott was asking, do you think that this is part of the Chinese national strategy? And Ethan was kind of, well, maybe. It's like, what are you talking about? Well, maybe. The Chinese government's right behind the funding the living daylights out of this stuff, indirectly, directly. Are you kidding me? Of course they are.
Okay. All right. We are between important and essential here. So we need a good vote. Nina.
I did rate it as essential, and not much to add, but the one thing that was really impressive to me was if you get Opus level reasoning for a tenth of the cost, so I'm just repeating what John said, but that was just glaring at me. Your ROI calculations just go, change overnight.
Okay. Adam, supportive?
Yeah, I could support essential. I think there probably aren't enough people. What's essential is the broader implication of this in terms of thinking about things like OpenClaw and the fact that at even 50 tokens per second, which is what state of the art is right now, it's only 30 cents an hour to have an assistant, running full time.
Yeah.
And that's fully completely all the time running.
Okay.
The economics of it probably in itself would make it an essential.
Yeah, let's put it essential. Paul will probably disagree, but let's proceed. Essential it is. Let's go next.
Okay, the next one comes from NVIDIA, and it is titled Leading Inference Providers Cut AI Costs by up to 10x with Open Source Models on NVIDIA Blackwell.
This is fascinating. In addition to what we just discussed at
Yes, speaking of 10x.
Yeah,
cost
10x,
reduction.
right. Adam, what do you think? At the infrastructure layer, they are pushing the cost and very ingenious.
Yeah,
so.
it's significant. Interestingly enough, I'd love to be challenged. I thought this was optional news. It's mostly talking about how Blackwell is better than Hopper, which is exactly what we would expect. And they're talking not even about just that Blackwell is better than Hopper, but running on the more advanced chip, which you'd expect to be more efficient and more cost efficient, while running open source models on top of it, then they got this cost efficiency. So yeah. I don't know. It wasn't that impressive to me.
It's actually very impressive, but what would leaders do with this? Because they're running on this stuff.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, precisely.
Right? It's that for that reason. It's already happening. What did you think, Ankash?
Optional for me as well, Luda.
Wow. Okay, we're going optional. Whoever disagrees, please state. Yeah, everybody optional. Optional it is. Let's proceed.
Okay, the last one for today comes from Llama Index, and it is titled Long Horizon Document Agents.
Yes, again, very interesting document here. Nina, what did you think?
So in a little summary here, Llama Index, they claim that they're redefining the goalpost for 2026 to move from chatbots to employees. So this has been a thread today, I think. And most AI today is very synchronous, right? It's just the chats and with the LLMs, and they are introducing what they call the long horizon document agents, where they can actually just carry a lot of the work over weeks, and some of it has already been able to happen through some workflow automations and things of that nature. But what I wanted to say here, in order for the business leader to relate, there has to be, I think, a mind shift change. I don't know how well this article does that. I think that leaders are still operating in silos where they're very good at delegating or being results driven more than they collaborate. So they don't know what they don't know, and they ask sometimes for POCs, but when they cannot replicate, they just dismiss some of that stuff. So in terms of going with just comparing a little bit of the to-do list would be this traditional automation versus this full-fledged employee. But I did rate it as important. Of course, I did struggle between important and essential, but I stayed with important for the audience that we're addressing.
And it's more of a thought piece, right? So it's actually it out there. They haven't implemented that much of it, and that also takes it down, I think, because it might go this way, it might not go this way, right? Okay, so what did you think, Adam?
I was leaning towards optional. It's an important thing. I can see where people are going to need it, but I don't know. I guess I just didn't take away enough from it that I don't feel like you couldn't sort of string together with other agentic orchestration.
But it puts together a framework. It asks questions, kind of put it together. It's an interesting piece in that sense. Okay, Paul.
I guess it felt a little outdated. Like at the end of it, they're talking about, even coding agents are making rapid progress in tackling long horizon tasks, from Ralph Wiggum to Beads and Gastown, and now there's Ant Farm and and OpenClaw, and I don't know. I mean, this article might be 3 days old, but it feels like it's outdated already to me.
Yeah, Adam, I'm exactly with you. This article is so January.
That's interesting. Ankash,
or first week of February, John, at least. I mean, at best.
Ankash, it's January, huh?
It's Luda, optional article.
Optional article. Okay, we're going, Paul, okay? Okay, optional it is. So this is the agentic orchestration is coming to fruition through all of these articles. But as we prepare the scorecard, any announcements? Paul, John?
Lots of activity going. John and I had a really good week, and some customers. John might want to share it. The thing I want to share, I'm most excited about on the personal side, I have a refurbished MacBook Pro arriving today to set up my OpenClaw. So I'm very excited about that, and we'll tell everyone what we're learning here. But it's really transformational out there for people who have set it up, and people following people have set it up and shared on X and YouTube.
The one thing I would say is over the past week or two, what we've really seen happen is the robot's ability to take big hunks of managerial functions, especially planning and correction and self-direction. And that literally has only happened over the last 14 days or 21 days. So that's going to create a compounding.
Yeah, totally. Okay. So for today, we have 2 essentials, 2 importance, and 2 optional. A very balanced, happy Friday. So thank you all for listening, pitching in. Nina, thanks for joining. And
Thank you for having me.
thank you very much. And we'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.